I'm Amanda Whittal, Research Coordinator for the Foundation for Alternative and Integrative Medicine. FAIM's goal is to share information about health options with the public through the expertise of over 100 guest writer medical practitioners, as well as international projects to learn and share options for health that are available worldwide. All information can be found on our website at www.faim.org. And as part of this work, we regularly interview practitioners from clinics and health centers that we feel the world should know about. We hope you enjoy today's interview. I'm here with Dr. Ameet Aggarwal, a naturopath who combines naturopathic medicine, family constellations therapy, EMDR trauma healing, and gestalt psychotherapy. He does all of this to facilitate healing from the emotional, physical, and ancestral root causes of illness. He's been voted as one of the top 43 naturopathic doctors in the world, and besides his practice, he's a best-selling author and facilitates wellness retreats and leadership programs. Dr. Aggarwal, thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule to talk with us today.
Thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure. We're going to explore healing family or ancestral trauma and how that can be the root cause of diseases. I'll dive into a bit of homeopathy for energy release and healing trauma as well. And then we'll talk about how to combine trauma healing, naturopathic medicine, homeopathy, and family constellations therapy so people can really get forward in their health rather than suppress symptoms, even if it's with natural medicines. Yeah, we want people to transform from deep within so that they're healthy from inside out.
It sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this with us and looking forward to hearing it. I wonder if just before we dive right in, you can give our audience a little bit of a background about yourself. You bring healing to people in so many different ways, and I think it's quite inspiring. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about your own philosophy to your approach and to health in general.
Okay, I'm just going to channel something. Most people, I guess, focus on healing the body with naturopathic medicine, and they forget that healing trauma, yeah, whether it's personal trauma or ancestral trauma or family trauma, can be the root cause of their condition. So they dabble in supplements all the time. And then other people with mental health issues, they go for counseling all the time without realizing that it could be their gut, their liver, a food sensitivity, or something in their body, something biological that's causing a neurotransmitter imbalance and therefore emotional issues. So it's important to heal both the body and the mind together. And I'll share some free videos at the end of this seminar. But it's important to understand, is it the foods you're eating? Or is it because my grandfather was killed in the war and we're carrying some ancestral trauma? Or is it because my parents were fighting when I was a child and I was so stressed and traumatized trying to keep everything together that I'm hypervigilant and that's burning out my adrenal system, leading to anxiety and depression? You see, so there's multiple root causes. And so my philosophy is when somebody comes to work with me is I understand, first of all, how their gut, their liver, and their adrenal system are working. And then I also understand what kind of traumas you've been through personally in your life, yeah, from childhood to present, whether it's hospitalizations, premature birth, abandonment from your mother, parents fighting, bullying in school, breakups, etc. And then, of course, we also explore all the family traumas in your family system, whether your uncle, I don't know, had miscarriages or abortions, whether your parents had miscarriages or abortions, or yourself, whether somebody was alcoholic or torn apart in the war, yeah, by a violent episode. All these traumas in the family system we carry as children, as descendants. It's called inherited trauma. And epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, proves that our DNA actually carries this information, yeah, from our ancestors. And because we carry this DNA, or because we carry this information, our physiology changes. And when our physiology changes because of past trauma, we also get diseases related to past traumas, even though the trauma is not our own. And I'll talk more about that in terms of family constellations therapy and how we can heal these traumas.
It's incredibly interesting. And I think when you see on paper that you follow an integrative approach, it doesn't really do it justice to everything that we have to uncover about health. Indeed, I feel that what I've seen from what you do, it resonates very strongly for that very reason, is that at this stage, we don't know that much as a society about our own mental, emotional impact on our physical health. And I would actually like to ask you a bit more about family constellations therapy specifically, because that was the modality that I learned about you from originally, and I found it extremely intriguing and valuable for people to know about. So could you share a little bit more about that in particular?
Absolutely, Amanda. So those of you who don't know, family constellations therapy is a form of talk therapy created by Bert Hellinger, a Jesuit priest, a German Jesuit priest who was working in South Africa. And he learned about the traditions of the Zulu people in South Africa. And then he left the priesthood and went to study psychotherapy. And he combined the traditions, African traditions, yeah, the knowledge and the wisdom of, or really our ancestral knowledge, together with modern psychotherapy. And from there grew family constellations therapy, one of the most exploding therapies in the world. Yeah, and we do retreats using family constellations and trauma healing. So those of you listening, Amanda and I might be running a retreat very soon. But the important thing to know is that we as people have a habit of taking on the emotions, the traumas, the stresses of our family members, our ancestors, our parents, and even our siblings. For example, I had a client with stomach cancer and depression, yeah? And we found out her stomach cancer came after a few months after she found out her father had an affair and cheated on her mother, yeah? So of course she was upset, but more importantly, her mother was upset and angry and traumatized. So out of love and loyalty, my client also took on her mother's rage and upsetness and rejected her father as a way of honoring and showing mom, I love you so much. I'm also not going to look at my father with love. I'm angry at him. And 6 months later, lo and behold, stomach cancer started appearing. So she came to me and we looked at this event in her life, and slowly but surely, we got her to let go of her mom's pain and anger. Yeah, using what we call healing sentences. So I got her to say, "Dear mom, I love you very much, and you're in a lot of pain, and I see your pain. Some of this pain is mostly yours, not all mine. Please." And when she said that sentence, she realized, gosh, it really is her mom's pain, and she has her own feelings about the affair and about her father. When she got in touch with those feelings, then she was able to say, "Please forgive me, mom, if I look at father once again, or if I look at father with love." And this was strange for her to say, but in a way, in her heart, it was kind of true that she still needed to reconnect with her father. So it was like, "Please forgive me if I connect with father again." And this gave her a lot of relief. And then I got her to imagine talking to her father and saying, "Dear dad, please forgive me. It shocked me what you did, and it's costing me my life to reject you or to continue rejecting you. I'm still your daughter and I love you in some way." Yeah, that's kind of the sentences we used. More of those sentences, the exact sentences are in my online course on my website, but you get the gist of it, right? Letting go of somebody else's emotions, getting in touch with your feelings, and really reconnecting with the source of love, which is both your father and your mother. Within a few months, no exaggeration, without drugs, without chemotherapy, the cancer went away. Okay. There's other examples I can share, and I'll share more as we talk about the orders of love and the philosophy of family constellations. But I've seen shoulder pain go away, chronic diseases disappear, yeah, migraines disappear, mental health issues from depression, suicidal thoughts, you name it. All these go away when we see that where the trauma is coming from. Yeah, is it our own, or does it belong to your mother being beaten by your father, or your grandfather being captured and kept in a what are they called? War, prison,
Like a prisoners of war camp.
prisoners of war camp. Yeah, prisoners of war camp, or being a part of the Holocaust. Yeah, I've seen tons of people heal just by naming where the trauma is coming from and letting go of their bond or attachment to their family members' experience. And it's very important to do that if you really want to treat the root cause of your issue rather than dabble in supplements, dabble in therapy, and just cycle through various medications. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really important to heal this root cause.
absolutely. I have a few kind of practical questions about it, but in general, I suppose that makes family constellations therapy good for anyone and anything. I don't see a particular condition or group of people that it's really targeted at. It sounds like something that anyone could benefit from that wants to improve their physical, mental, emotional health. Would that be fair to say?
I believe so, Amanda. I believe so because from what I've seen, physical diseases, mental health issues, yeah, and even strange symptoms start to go away once we look at these things. Yeah. For example, I had a client and I think the grandfather committed suicide in jail. He went crazy in jail. And after that, this client's uncle also went mentally ill. Yeah. And he started having strange behaviors. And after that, this uncle's child, so my client's cousin, became abusive as well, violent sexually, etc. Yeah. So this symptom picture was passed on. And unfortunately, one of my clients, they were affected by this violent cousin in a way. And these sort of entanglements are important to heal so that future generations are not harmed. Yeah, so family constellations therapy is important for physical issues, mental issues, and also to protect future generations from further harm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As you're talking about it, on the one hand, it's extremely inspiring, and at the same time, it's something so complex in terms of most of us aren't aware of what traumas affected us, unless it was something very acute that was very obvious to us in our childhood or early adulthood or adulthood. But when you start talking about past generations and these types of traumas, it's almost seems almost impossible for us to raise our awareness to the level where we would be able to clear those, heal those on our own. So I'm just kind
Yeah,
of curious how to place family constellations therapy. Is it something that you think when somebody has any kind of illness that comes up, it is one of the top therapies that should be included in the healing process? Or would you also treat it as something preventative to help us maintain a more optimal health state in general?
I love that question. Beautiful. It's both. It's both. Yeah. Um, when somebody comes to my clinic and we heal something, I also look at their family system and see, oh, these are possible entanglements in your family system. Yeah. If your mother had, for example, 3 abortions and was grieving them or connected to them and depressed after that, you as a person might be missing your mother. You might not feel connected to her because she's kind of disconnected. Yeah. And so you might feel resentment towards her, you might feel left alone, and you might feel also abandoned in relationships. So you go and find a partner, and suddenly you feel alone in the relationship. You don't feel seen by your partner. And you think it's your partner, but really it's your lack of you're feeling your lack of being seen by your mother or missing your mother. And we put it onto our partner. Yeah. So what was I going to say here? I've totally lost my train of thought.
We're
What was
talking
your
about
question?
prevention.
Yes, yes, prevention as well as treating conditions. It's important for both. And I'll simplify it scientifically, yeah? If your grandmother was in the war or experienced some trauma, then her physiology will change, yeah? And her DNA will adjust to cope with the stress in the environment, yeah? The science of epigenetics shows that our DNA expression changes based on the environment. So now, of course, if her DNA expression changes, the eggs in her ovary, they will slightly be altered. And out of those eggs, your mother is born. And your mother's DNA then will be slightly altered, or the expression of DNA. And out of your mom, then you are born. So you will have a DNA expression that is mirroring that of your grandmother's experience in the war. Yeah. And they've even shown studies where descendants of survivors of 9/11 and the Holocaust, their physiology is different. They are more prone to anxiety, depression, OCD. even though these descendants themselves did not experience the wars or the traumas, they're carrying the inherited trauma. And the beauty of family constellations therapy is that we can actually resolve these traumas as well. And we do that at the retreats that we're going to talk about at the end of this talk, where people come either to Kenya, to Europe, Sardinia, sometimes Peru, Costa Rica, where nice places. And we work in a group or one-to-one settings. I also do this online where we can feel into where the entanglement is happening. Yeah. And I also have a very in-depth questionnaire you can all get from my website that helps you explore the different traumas in your family system to give you an idea of what might be affecting you today.
That's incredible. I think any resources you can share about how people can explore it, how people can reach out and learn more. We will talk about those details at the end, but it's a very, I first heard you speaking about this at a conference, and at that moment it gave me goosebumps, and it did again, just in the sense of it's such an untouched part of us that has such a huge influence. So I think it's fantastic that you're making all of these resources available in addition to people attending therapy sessions. I think the concept makes a lot of sense, and the way you describe what you do makes a lot of sense. If somebody wanted to go for family constellations therapy, are there specific things that they should be aware of, they should be prepared for, anything that you think is worth mentioning ahead of time for anyone wanting to look into it more?
Yes, I'll actually begin by explaining to you how constellations works so that it doesn't sound so woo-woo, okay?
Yeah.
First of all, family constellations therapy is based on like certain orders of love, we call them. Bert Hellinger called them orders of love. And these are rules in life. The first rule is that everyone needs to be included. Yeah, what does that mean? Sometimes we exclude people in our mind, in our hearts, in our system. These can be aborted or miscarried children, ex-lovers of our parents, people who died in the war, people who committed suicide, the black sheep of the family who did certain things and we don't talk about them, or even family secrets. When we exclude them, somehow energetically, the symptoms of these people or just their energy appears in us or in our children, yeah, or in our family members. For example, I had a client with chronic shoulder pain, and I asked her, did your mom have any miscarriages or abortions? Yeah, that came up in the session. And she started crying. She was like, yes, how did you know? I was like, there's something going on, right? You're carrying some sort of burden that's not yours. And then she started crying. She was like, yes, Amit, my mom was so depressed after she lost her child. And after that, I was born, but she was always sad. And so I got her to say healing sentences towards her mom, saying, dear mom, you lost your child. Your grief is a lot. And I'm grieving with you. I also know that some of this grief is only yours as the real mother. And my grief is really for a missing sibling, but not as the mother. Immediately there in the session, she felt some movement in her shoulders. It was freeing up.
Mm.
And then I got her to say, please forgive me, dear mom. If I leave your grief with you out of respect as you as the real mother and allow myself to grieve as just a sibling without carrying your pain. Please see me as just your child. I'm only the child. You're the big mother. You're the big one. You're the mother. And that is the most respectful way to see you as the mother who can bear this pain as your own, and me as the child who can just watch and still love you as my mom. Something like that, yeah? Amanda, in the session, and those of you listening, it sounds unbelievable. In the session, her whole shoulder started moving up and freeing up, yeah? And in the course that I teach, there's an online course as well. You can see the entire sequence of sentences we used till the shoulder completely released and she felt complete harmony in her life. Yeah. So when you're going for a family constellation therapy session, be aware that you will be expected to maybe know some events. If you don't know all the events, I can feel them out. And at the retreats we do, I use representatives to help us find different things that you might not be aware of, yeah, certain traumas in your family system. So be aware that you might be asked to look at people who have been excluded in your life. We're also looking at respecting the order of hierarchy. So a lot of people they become the parent of the parent. Like this client was becoming the mother of her mother, carrying her pain. In constellation therapy, we ask you to respect your elders as the big ones and hand back their responsibility back to them, not as a rejection of their pain, but to honor that they are the big ones and they have the right to carry their responsibility and their experience. And we need to bow to them as children, as little as their children. I know it sounds woo-woo, but all this theory is explained in the course. And the other thing we do in family constellations therapy is balance the act of giving and taking. So we as children receive from our parents and we give forward in life by having children of our own or by doing good in life. In relationships as well, if somebody gives too much and we receive too much, we feel guilty, or we feel resentful if we're giving too much and the other person's just taking. So as a client of family constellations therapy, you will find so much relief from just restoring balance in your family system, acknowledging missing people, yeah, whether it's aborted children, miscarried children, missing siblings. For example, one client had overwhelming anxiety. And I asked her to go back home and ask if there was a miscarriage or abortion in her family. And she came back surprised and she says, yes, my mom says there was. So my client thought she was the first child. But after finding out there was a miscarriage, I got her to imagine herself in the second position and then imagine asking her parents to look at her as the second child. And some of you can feel that already. The relief was outstanding. Yeah. She finally let go of all that pressure on her system of trying to be the first child. When she could feel her position as second child, she felt so much relief physically and emotionally that she didn't need therapy anymore. That was the end. She could live her life freely, yeah, in her true position in the family and didn't have any more anxiety. And then she was also more available to her own children. She felt more connected to herself and she could give more to her children rather than being preoccupied with fulfilling this role of the first child that wasn't her role. Yeah. I also got her to thank that sibling for being in that position and honor the presence of that sibling. Yeah. And honor her love for this missing child, even though she never met this child. This is very important, those of you listening. It sounds woo-woo, it sounds like fake in a way, but when you try it out and when you watch the course, I have lots of master classes and free videos on my website where you can see how to integrate family constellations therapy, homeopathy, trauma healing, and holistic medicine. And it'll make so much more sense to you. Yeah. And I have lots more examples of that. So just to summarize, when you're going for a constellation session, you're looking at treating the root cause. Yeah. I'll feel things as well energetically. So I'll get information. People who are representing your family members will actually behave like your family members, even though they've never met them. And this is not voodoo. This is not against Christianity or any other religion. Yeah. This is sacred science in a way. Yeah. It's proof that we carry trauma that belongs to the ancestors. In fact, even in the Bible, it says, those who sin 7 generations down will suffer. And this is the reason, because future generations carry our sins and our experiences. So whether you're religious or not, family constellations therapy can bring a lot of relief into your life and into future generations.
Fantastic. You said a few times that it sounds a bit woo-woo, but I would say that, as often happens with more mental emotional experiences, the science catches up a little bit more slowly. And I think the epigenetics knowledge that we have now puts a lot behind that, and the experience that people have speaks for itself. So I do really think it's something that people should be aware of and explore.
Absolutely. And if you're still doubting it, look at mirror neurons. So we all have these neurons called mirror neurons, where we pick up on the emotions of people around us. Yeah. So as a baby, you feel everything that your mother feels. Yeah. So for example, when I was born, my mom lost her father and she felt a lot of grief. And I experienced that grief without realizing, and grief and abandonment, to be honest, without realizing what it was until later on when I did constellation on myself. I recognized, gosh, it's actually my mom's pain of losing her father. And before this realization, letting go of her trauma, I was always troubled by sense of abandonment, fear of abandonment, feeling alone in relationships, all these things. And I realized actually when I let go of that, I felt more confident in my heart and more stable and secure. And I could connect with a partner more fully as a man, as a human being. So it was a very beautiful experience. Yeah. So look up mirror neurons. Yeah. It really proves that we take on traumas, stresses, emotions of our family members.
Yeah.
And this will give you some support in exploring family constellations further.
Amazing. Thank you, Ameet. The mirror neurons is I guess a conversation we could spend hours on as well. I've looked into this and find it fascinating also from the perspective of levels of people's empathy. But I have a couple more questions. So the family constellations therapy is something I really wanted to delve into because it looks at the root cause, because it's such an important but perhaps not very well known healing approach. I do know that you use other modalities to facilitate health, whether it be gestalt therapy, homeopathy you mentioned. Can you share a little bit about what role these other aspects play when you're trying to get to the root cause, but I suppose at the same time using these other elements for a supportive role, or how would you describe it?
So good question. Holistic medicine is important for all of us, yeah, because we're natural human beings until AI comes about. But anyways, that's a different topic. So we need herbs and healthy foods to live well, yeah. So most of us have a stomach, intestines, and our intestines are like a nice tube, a nice lining kept healthy by good bacteria and good food. Over time, with antibiotics, a poor diet, etc., this lining gets damaged, and we get something called leaky gut syndrome, where toxins now leak into our bloodstream and cause inflammation everywhere in the body. And that's the root cause of asthma, eczema, arthritis, a lot of chronic inflammatory conditions. Okay. And so healing the gut with probiotics, vitamin D, and other supplements I mentioned on my website is super important for really reducing chronic inflammation that can also cause chronic diseases and mental health issues. Now, all this inflammation also goes and affects our liver, and our liver is the master organ. It's detoxifying, it's balancing hormones, it's converting vitamins, iron, glucose, etc. Our livers are inundated with toxins every day, pesticides, chemicals in the drinking water, drugs, alcohol, etc. And then it's bombarded with chronic inflammation from leaky gut, from inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, etc. So our liver becomes what Chinese medicine calls stagnant. Our livers become stagnant. So it produces less bile. With less bile, we get more gas, bloating, constipation. Yeah, because bile is a lubricant. So most people with constipation, they're taking laxatives, which is a big mistake in some cases because they're missing bile flow. So it's important to heal the liver first. Okay. The liver also controls hormones. So with liver stagnation, people go into either estrogen dominance, progesterone deficiency, so they get PMS symptoms. That's again gas, bloating, breast tenderness, cramping, clotting during menses, and mood swings, anxiety, insomnia, rage. And why is that? Because when progesterone is low, GABA, the anti-anxiety neurotransmitter, doesn't work so well in the brain, right? And so healing the liver is also important. Yeah, and that's where naturopathic medicine comes in. We heal the gut, we heal the liver with milk thistle, dandelion, and other herbs. In my online course, I also mention a lot of homeopathic remedies you can use to detoxify the liver. And lastly, the other organ that naturopathic medicine focuses on is your adrenal glands. So our adrenal glands are exhausted from childhood traumas, everyday stress. We're in fight, flight, or freeze response, right? So over time, our adrenal glands get exhausted. It can't produce enough adrenaline. The chronic inflammation and toxins from a stagnant liver also stress our adrenal glands to produce cortisol to manage the toxins and inflammation. So a combination of childhood trauma or unresolved trauma, everyday stress, and chronic inflammation burns out your adrenal glands. And you get something called adrenal fatigue, right? And so that's where naturopathic medicine comes in again, where we use herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola, and also homeopathic remedies, which I talk about, like caliphos or phosphoric acid. All these are covered in the course. You don't need to write these down. But all of these nourish the adrenal glands. The missing piece here is now releasing the trauma that's stored in your body. And now that's why it's important to explore therapies like gestalt therapy and EMDR. I also use somatic experiencing and a bunch of other therapies to really release trauma from our body. Yeah. And I also combine that with family constellations therapy to heal the root trauma, which is ancestral trauma. So healing the body, which is the gut, the liver, the adrenal system, healing the mind through trauma release, and healing systemic trauma with family constellations therapy leaves you more fresh, more energized, more clear, more clean, yeah, and less affected by toxins, traumas, etc. So it's important to heal both the body and the mind and the family system together.
Incredible. It's true holistic approach to health, from healing the root cause all the way to the experience in the body. I think it's fantastic. A lot for people to learn, a lot of really good information that I could ask you 1,000 more questions on. Our time has flown by, so I won't ask you more details. The only thing I do want to ask you about, you're such a wealth of knowledge, both intuitively from a psychotherapy perspective, but also from a naturopathic perspective. And I know that you run wellness retreats, you run different leadership programs, all kinds of things that are beyond the one-to-one practice. Is there anything you want to share with people about what these look like, how often you have them? I know it's on your website, but anything you'd like to share now before we say goodbye?
Yeah, intuitively, I feel like saying, okay, first of all, there's free videos on my website that puts all this together. The website is drameet.com. That's drameet.com. These free videos will help you learn how to integrate homeopathy, trauma healing, naturopathic medicine, heal your gut, your liver, anxiety, depression, etc., and incorporate family constellations therapy. The workshops that I run around the world, those happen either 2 to 3 times a year in beautiful places around the world. You're welcome to come for those. I highly encourage you to also take the online course. There's 2 or 3 online courses on my website. There's a family constellations course. There's a holistic medicine course, which combines trauma healing, homeopathy, for liver detox, for trauma healing, for mental health, etc. And there's other courses on just integrating all this knowledge together. When you combine this knowledge and then show up at the retreats or go on to do your own therapy with somebody else, you're much more informed. You're much more in control, I should say. Yeah. And you'll have done a lot of your own deeper healing before showing up to these sessions. Yeah. So I encourage you to do as much as you can before you come to these retreats, because sometimes these retreats might be in 3 months or 6 months. And I'd love you to feel at least somewhat relieved from your anxiety, depression, mental health issues, or whatever it may be. Yeah. So you can thrive more when you do these retreats with other people. And if you don't like online courses, it's okay. Show up to a retreat. Yeah. We combine it with safaris or beach time, or, last time it was in Sardinia, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Next time it's going to be likely in Kenya. People can go on safari, then come to the retreat. I might do one in Crete, or we might do one in Costa Rica. So to answer your question, I don't know if I have properly, but do the online free videos, do some of the courses, and you're more than welcome to join this deeper transformation at the retreats as well.
Fantastic. I mean, Dr. Aggarwal, thank you so much for sharing so many great insights with the audience and providing so much information for people. We will share the website at the end of the video for anyone who wants to go and look at the online courses and everything that you're offering. But thank you again for your time and for everything you do, and definitely hope to chat with you again sometime.
A pleasure, Amanda. And those of you listening, one last thing, actually, there's a lot of family constellations out there. Please look for someone who is experienced and uses also some sort of psychological background when doing the work. Yeah, because you'll get a lot of deeper healing when you do constellations this way. So I really wish you luck and lots of love, and I'll see you at a retreat, hopefully.